It was supposed to be just another blind date. A fancy restaurant, two adults trying to see if maybe, just maybe, they could find love again. But when Ethan Cole, a successful single dad, walked in with three giggling 6-year-old girls clinging to his legs, the whole restaurant turned to stare. And across the table, Lena, a young nurse who'd been stood up too many times before, felt her heart twist, not in annoyance, but in something much deeper. That night wasn't about romance anymore. It became a story about kindness, the kind that changes lives in ways you never expect. Hey everyone, welcome back to your channel name, where we share powerful, heartwarming stories that remind us of the goodness still left in this world. If you enjoy stories that touch your heart and restore your faith in people, make sure to and sharing your thoughts. We love hearing your own stories of kindness, too. Now, let's get into today's story. Blind date mix-up. The single dad CEO brought his triplet daughters, and the young nurse stayed. Lena Walker had promised her best friend she'd give dating one more try. After a year of double shifts at the hospital and lonely nights eating dinner by the glow of her phone screen, she agreed to meet a guy her friend swore was perfect for her. His name was Ethan. Mid-30s, handsome, kind, and apparently successful. The restaurant was a cozy little Italian place downtown. Warm lights, soft music, couples laughing over glasses of wine. Lena sat there, nervously smoothing her dress, glancing at the door every few seconds. She'd been stood up before, and she couldn't help but expect it again. Then, 20 minutes late, the door opened, and in walked a tall man in a dark suit, holding the hands of three identical little girls in matching pink dresses. The host's eyes widened. So did Lena's. The girls were talking all at once, one holding a teddy bear, another chewing on her sleeve, the third dragging a small pink backpack. Ethan looked exhausted, askew, dark circles under his eyes, but when his gaze landed on Lena, his whole face softened with a nervous, apologetic smile. Lena, he asked. She blinked. Yes? Ethan. I'm so sorry about this. My babysitter canceled last minute, and I didn't want to stand you up. He looked genuinely embarrassed. For a moment, Lena didn't know what to say. A blind date with triplets? This was definitely not what she'd expected, but then one of the little girls tugged at Ethan's sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, is this the lady you said has a pretty smile?" Ethan froze. His ears turned red, and Lena, she laughed out a soft, genuine laugh that broke the tension like sunlight after a storm. "Well," she said, "since you're all here, how about we make it a family dinner?" The waiter hesitated when he saw 4 menus at the table, but Ethan just shrugged and mouthed, "I tried." The girls, Emma, Ellie, and Eva, were curious, bright, and full of questions. "Are you Daddy's new friend? Do you like cartoons? Do you know how to braid hair?" Lena found herself answering every question with patience and laughter. She helped cut their spaghetti, wiped little sauce stains, and even turned napkins into tiny paper butterflies to make them giggle. Ethan watched quietly. He wasn't used to anyone treating his daughters with that kind of tenderness, especially someone who just met them. By the end of dinner, the girls were asleep in their chairs, and Lena was smiling at Ethan over an untouched dessert. He sighed. "I'm sorry. This was supposed to be a real date, not this circus." Lena shook her head. "Don't apologize. You showed up. That already says a lot." He smiled faintly. "Most people would have walked out." "Maybe they would have," she said softly. "But I see a dad doing his best. And that's kind of beautiful." Over the next few weeks, Lena and Ethan kept in touch, not in the whirlwind, romantic way you see in movies, but in quiet, meaningful ways. A text here, a photo there. Emma lost her first tooth. Ellie got an A on her spelling test. Eva made me pancakes at 5 a.m. burnt, but she was so proud. Lena would respond with kind words, always cheering them on point. One Saturday, she stopped by their house after a night shift. Ethan had caught the flu, and the girls were running wild. Without being asked, Lena rolled up her sleeves, she made soup, read the girls a story, and made sure Ethan rested. When he woke up, he found her asleep on the couch, all 3 girls curled up around her like little kittens. He stood there for a long moment, just watching. Ethan wasn't just any dad, he was the CEO of a tech company. On paper, he had it all: success, a big house, cars, money, but in reality, he was lonely. His wife had passed away in childbirth. He'd spent years burying his grief under work, trying to be both father and mother to 3 curious little souls. Lena never judged him. She never treated him like the CEO or the rich guy. She treated him like a human, flawed, tired, and kind. She'd bring coloring books for the girls, or help with school projects, or just listen when Ethan needed to vent about how hard single parenting could be. Sometimes, She'd find little thank you notes from the girls. Thank you for making Daddy smile again. Thank you for hugs. Thank you for pancakes. Each one melted her heart a little more. Months passed, and their bond grew deeper. Still, Lena wasn't sure if what they had was love or just friendship. She didn't want to overstep. After all, Ethan's world revolved around his daughters. Then, one rainy evening, she stopped by with groceries. The house was quiet, too quiet. She found Ethan sitting on the floor of the playroom, surrounded by broken crayons and tiny tears on his cheeks. Bad day? She asked gently. He nodded. The company's board wants me to move to New York. It's a huge opportunity, but it means uprooting the girls. New school, new home. And I don't know what's right anymore. Lena sat beside him, silent for a while, then she said softly, "You'll make the right choice. Because you care enough to worry." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, he saw not just the nurse who'd been kind to his kids, but the woman who'd quietly stitched herself into their lives with compassion and grace. "I don't want to lose what we have," he whispered. She smiled through tears. "Then don't." Ethan turned down the move. He told the board he needed stability for his daughters, and for himself. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. There were still sleepless nights, messy mornings, and moments of doubt, but there was laughter again, there was warmth. One Saturday morning, the triplets set up a surprise tea party in the backyard. There were paper crowns, juice boxes, and cookies. They made Lena sit in the middle while Ethan poured imaginary tea. Then little Emma said shyly, "Miss Lena, can you stay forever?" Lena's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Ethan. He nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "I was hoping you'd say yes." It wasn't a fairy tale beginning. It started with a cancelled babysitter, 3 kids, and a dinner that could have gone terribly wrong, but kindness has a funny way of turning chaos into connection. Lena didn't stay because Ethan was rich or charming. She stayed because she saw goodness in his tired eyes, in his daughter's laughter, in the messy, beautiful effort of a man doing his best. And Ethan learned that sometimes love doesn't come from grand gestures or perfect plans. Sometimes, it's born from simple acts of kindness. The nurse who stayed when she didn't have to, the smile that made 3 little girls feel safe again. In a world that often feels rushed and self-centered, this story reminds us of something timeless. Kindness is never wasted. It plants seeds that grow into hope, healing, and sometimes love. So maybe the next time you get the chance to be kind, even when it's inconvenient, stay. You never know whose life you might change or how deeply they might change yours.